President Biden just gave a pitch-perfect speech addressing the fact that Donald Trump is now a convicted felon after a jury of Donald Trump's peers on Thursday found Donald Trump guilty on each of the 34 felony counts in his criminal trial. In President Biden's speech, he talked about the system of justice in our nation, a system of justice that has endured for 250 plus years, that is now under attack, and that Donald Trump had his day in court. Donald Trump had the ability to select the jury along with the prosecution. Donald Trump had the right to competent defense counsel. Donald Trump had the right to testify, which he did not. Donald Trump was given all of the resources available under our Constitution. And after a 7+ week trial, 5 weeks of actual evidence, and a 12-hour jury deliberation, a jury of Donald Trump's peers found Donald Trump guilty, guilty, guilty. Here's President Biden speaking earlier today in the White House. Let's play this clip.
The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed. Donald Trump was given every opportunity to defend himself. It was a state case, not a federal case, and it was heard by a jury of 12 citizens, 12 Americans, 12 people like you, like millions of Americans who served on juries. This jury is chosen the same way every jury in America is chosen. It was a process that Donald Trump's attorney was part of. The jury heard 5 weeks of evidence, 5 weeks. And after careful deliberation, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. They found Donald Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts. Now he'll be given the opportunity, as he should, to appeal that decision just like everyone else has that opportunity. That's how the American system of justice works. And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years, and it literally is the cornerstone of America, our justice system. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down. It's as simple as that. That's America. That's who we are. And that's who we'll always be, God willing.
As former Republican consultant Tim Miller writes, President Biden pitch perfect right now. Glad he spoke clearly about the MAGA attacks on our justice system. President Biden saying, that's America, that's who we are, and that's who we will always be, God willing. I want to share with you another portion of what I just shared with you from President Biden's speech, because it's just so important, where he talks about how our justice system works and how reckless and dangerous and irresponsible it is for anybody to say this system is rigged just because you don't win. Play this clip.
That's how the American system of justice works. And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years, and it literally is the cornerstone of America, our justice system. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down. It's as simple as that. That's America. That's who we are, and that's who we'll always be, God willing.
And that's the theme over and over again with these MAGAs. It's always rigged unless they win. They always find a way to complain and whine about the outcomes they don't like and say everything is rigged. But if they win, then they say it is not rigged. I want to share with you this other moment as President Biden is leaving the press conference. He gets asked an absolutely ridiculous question by the press. And you can see President Biden, who's devoted his entire life to public service, just even trying to process the ignorance embedded in this question, or the fact that this question even has to be asked in the first place. Let me share with you this moment as President Biden was walking out of the press conference. Play this clip.
Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you for arrest. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign? We'd love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Should he be on the ballot, sir?
Here's the statement issued by the Biden campaign following the guilty verdict yesterday. I want to share with you. Biden-Harris campaign on the verdict. In New York, we saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed that he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There is still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president. The threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater. He is running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator on day one and calling for our Constitution to be terminated so he can regain and keep power. A second Trump term means chaos, ripping away Americans' freedoms and fomenting political violence, and the American people will reject it in November. There's no hyperbole in that statement. Donald Trump has called for the termination of the United States Constitution. Donald Trump has stated in his own words that he wants to be a dictator on day one. Donald Trump has made it clear that his campaign is one of revenge and retribution. I want to share with you as well a statement from the Biden campaign made before as well, where they addressed Donald Trump's completely unhinged. I guess Donald Trump billed it as a press conference, although Trump took no questions from the press. A very weak, cowardly, tired-looking, lost-looking Donald Trump was giving this conference or speech, if you will, before the press. I want to compare that to what you just saw from President Biden, but here's what the Biden campaign put out as their response to Trump's unhinged speech. America just witnessed a confused, desperate, and defeated Donald Trump ramble about his own personal grievances and lie about the American justice system, leaving anyone watching with one obvious conclusion. This man cannot be president of the United States. Unhinged by his 2020 election loss and spiraling from his criminal convictions, Trump is consumed by his own thirst for revenge and retribution. He thinks this election is about him, but it is not. It's about the American people, lowering their costs, protecting their freedoms, defending their democracy. That's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are fighting for. Donald Trump is sowing chaos, attacking the rule of law, and fighting for the only thing in the world he gives a damn about, Donald Trump. So I shared with you President Biden's press conference. Let me share with you earlier what Donald Trump said so you can put it side by side. Here, Donald Trump is saying that the prosecution was able to do salacious things, but he claims he did not ever have any relations with Stormy. Play this clip.
Other people weren't able to testify, but with these people, they were able to use people salacious. By the way, and nothing ever happened. There was no anything. Nothing ever happened. And
Donald Trump, that the witnesses that he wanted to call were literally, he says, he used the word literally crucified. He said, well, you called one witness, the MAGA lawyer Robert Costello, who was not literally crucified. He was cross-examined and proven to be an absolute liar. But here's Donald Trump whining. Play this clip.
as far as the trial itself, it was very unfair. We weren't allowed to use our election expert under any circumstances. You saw what happened to some of the witnesses that were on our side. They were literally crucified by this man who looks like an angel, but he's really a devil. He looks so nice and soft. People say, oh, he seems like such a nice man. No, unless you saw him in action.
And here's Donald Trump whining and complaining about why he didn't testify after promising everybody he would testify the same way he does in all criminal trials where he says he's going to testify and then doesn't. Play this clip.
Would have testified. I wanted to testify. The theory is you never testify because as soon as you testify, anybody, if it were George Washington, don't testify because they'll get you on something that you said slightly wrong and then they sue you for perjury. But I didn't care about that. I wanted to. But the judge allowed them to go into everything that I was ever involved in, not this case, everything that I was ever involved in, which is a first. In other words, you could go into every single thing that I ever did. Was he a bad boy here? Was he a bad boy there? And my lawyer said, what do you need to go through? And all you wanted to do is testify simply on this case. Because I would have loved to have testified. To this day, I would have liked to have testified. But you would have said something out of whack, like it was a beautiful sunny day and it was actually raining out. And I very much appreciate the big crowd of people outside. That's incredible what's happening.
So you take a look at what's going on with Fox right now and what they are saying on Fox. Some bizarre stuff. You have Donald Trump's former press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, who Donald Trump calls Milquetoast McEnany. That's the name that he calls her. She's on Fox trying to secure her bag, right? They pay her to say these things. And she goes that what President Biden needs to do is reach out to the governor of New York and get Donald Trump pardoned. That's like what she's saying. Play this clip.
Biden, you want to take the high road? Call up Kathy Hochul. Have her give a pardon. You could do that.
Oh, wow. All right.
You then have the Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson. He goes on Fox and he says that he's got a personal relationship with the right-wing Supreme Court justices. And he says he's confident that the right-wing Supreme Court justices are going to do something and they're going to try to intervene. I mean, these people are the exact opposite of law and order. What you're speaking with, MAGA Mike, Alito, who hangs his flag upside down and flies the insurrectionist flag, and you're out there on TV bragging about it because a jury made up of 12 individuals found Donald Trump liable after deliberations the way the process is supposed to work. Here, this is MAGA Mike Johnson.
Do you think that the Supreme Court has a duty to step in since this will impact, the election? I know we want to act like he's just a normal guy, but he's a leading presidential candidate. The voters should know what's going to happen here. So what do you see playing out in the legal system?
Well, there's a lot of developments yet to come, but I do believe the Supreme Court should step in. Obviously, this is totally unprecedented, and it's dangerous to our system. I mean, we've all discussed this before, and you all talk about it all the time. This is diminishing the American people's faith in our system of justice itself. And to maintain a republic, you have to have that. People have to believe that justice is fair, that there's equal justice under law. They don't see that right now. And I think that the justices on the court, I know many of them personally, I think they're deeply concerned about that as we are. So I think they'll set this straight, but it's going to take a while. You're right. The process takes a while to play out.
Just so you see, this is all coordinated. You then have on Fox, Mark Levin, sounds like that. And Mark Levin goes on and he starts screaming and yelling how the Supreme Court should jump in. The Supreme Court needs to jump in. This is what's going on Fox right now. Play this clip.
Kooks do it. We need to look at Bush versus Gore. Why did the Supreme Court take that case from the Florida Supreme Court? We need to look at things like common law writs, which I know the audience don't understand, but a lot of lawyers do. Not writs of certiorari based on statute, but common law writs based on judicial decisions. We need to give the Supreme Court the opportunity to fix this. Why? We cannot have local acting judges, Soros DAs, 15,000 district attorney's office, God knows how many state judges, destroying our federal election system, influencing how we elect the president of the United States. And if we have a pathway to bring it to the Supreme Court, even though it's rarely used, and by God, we use it, we use every legal quiver that we possibly can muster, rather than sitting around and saying,
right. And look, I've had him on the network before, John Bolton, who used to be the national security advisor in the Trump administration, who's no fan of Donald Trump anymore. And I've spoken to John Bolton before, and here's what Bolton says. He goes, "Yesterday's verdict should signal to people of conscience that we need a change. Nominating a convicted felon could endanger other Republicans up and down the ballot in November." He goes, watch the full interview with CNN that he has. And John Bolton said, look, I'm not sure how I felt about this case going into it, but a jury of Donald Trump's peers, when I'm agreeing with John Bolton, it's like, what's up? He goes, a jury of Donald Trump's peers deliberated. They heard the evidence, and Donald Trump's a convicted felon, and the jury verdict needs to be respected. And all these people out there, these MAGAs saying this is rigged and this is so unfair. You're not the party of law and order anymore. You're the party of Trump's lawlessness, period, full stop. And then they finally have on Fox, this is part of their talking points, this kind of Kim Jong-un style Daddy Trump kind of complex, right? Daddy Trump came out of the courtroom and said, it's all going to be okay. And I felt like it was a father telling us that we're going to be okay. It's going to be okay, child. I mean, I'll show you. This is what the Fox person said. It's like a father that says to you, it's going to be good. This is some of the strangest, most unhinged, deranged propaganda. And how dare Fox platform this, and how dare this exist in the United States of America? What the heck is this filth? Here, play this clip.
That is a huge galvanizing that occurred. And to me, the most important moment, which Trump absolutely nailed, was after the verdict was read, when he came out of the courthouse and he said, it's going to be okay. There were a lot of Americans that were feeling dejected in that moment. There were a lot of people that saw this farcical trial for what it was, the political witch hunt for what it was, and he came out and said, it's okay. And that moment, that's the cue from the bride, the cue from your dad, where you say, okay, it is going to be okay. And now let's galvanize, let's donate as he called for. But now what remains to be heralded is stewarding it appropriately. Get out and vote. We need to really harness the GOP messaging moving forward of how does this mean for actually putting your ballot into the box. That's what.
Look, I'm proud that President Biden gave a speech about law and order that was calmly delivered, confidently delivered. Again, I think it is infuriating that a speech like that even has to be given in the United States of America, where you have to say that law and order matters, that you have to say our jury system needs to be respected, that you have to say that our justice system that has endured over 250 years needs to be preserved. The fact that we're at the point where there's only one political party that agrees with the way our judicial system works, and the MAGA Republicans want to hoist up a MAGA dictator to run our country, that is a very infuriating and very sad state of our country right now because of the MAGA Republicans. But we're going to keep calling out the truth together with you every single